In the home theater hobby, there's a lot of expressions of your personality in terms of the type of equipment you buy, the brands that you have a favored enjoyment of. But I think one of the biggest expressions of our personality, of ourselves, and so on in home theater largely is the presentation of our equipment, basically our rack. So I get a lot of questions in the comments of my videos about what's the brand of rack that you use, what's this, what's that, what are the kind of the specifics. How did you decide that? How did you put that together? And some of those details. So I figured I'd make this video here, a little bit of a vloggy one, because I've actually kind of spearheading this video by making some changes in the organization and the presentation of the rack. I'll talk about what I'm doing specifically and why in a moment. But I thought the time aligned pretty well to do a little bit of a rack vlog. So what is this thing? Well, this is a strong rack. I bought it from my friend and fellow AV reseller integrator Dan DiCarlo at AudioVision. It's available from Snap AV, a pretty common brand I think that you'll find around the hobby, because there's, I think, a fair number of Snap dealers out there selling equipment. Wouldn't you know, Techthusiasm is also a Snap dealer. So my rack's here is a double, as you can see, it's a 37U height, and I try to put a lot of organization into my rack. I've done prior videos in the history of the channel on this, basically rack tours and rack overviews, but I like to cluster different things together. I have kind of my data center up top here with two NASs running right now and my PC up there. I have my living room, audio, source componentry and amplification, whole home control, and some utility items like power management and such down there. And now essentially the whole right hand side of the rack serves the dedicated Techthusiasm home theater space, starting with the NADs on the bottom, the Anthem, the madVR, the Kaleidescape, and so on, up to the Apple TV there. Now my rack exists here in basically a separate kind of utility storage room. It's not functionally accessible in my home theater space, nor is it visible. So I have a little bit of a balance, I would say, between wanting it to look nice from both sides essentially, but from the front, but also utility. So I like to use the spacers, I like to use the rack kits and the rack ears when I have them. I like to keep things nice and neat, but I don't go to the kind of the nth degree. There's no doors and stuff like that on it because there's really no need. I still like to have it be kind of an impressive element of showcasing and touring folks for the home theater. If we have new folks over to the house, we happen to give them a home theater demo. Usually we always start in the theater room and we migrate our way over finally into here, take a look at all the equipment. And I find in a lot of cases, actually, people are more impressed or wowed essentially by the rack and the equipment and the presentation than as much as they are by the room itself. I've also kept a balance of basically keeping the equipment, the audio, the video gear and such facing forward, while a little bit more of the infrastructure things are on the back side in terms of like where things plug in, and specifically my network equipment. So that brings me to my plan, I guess the vlog part essentially of this video for what I'm planning to do in the rack space, and adding a couple of cool components to improve the organization and the presentation of the rack. So one of my goals for the year essentially is to get my network infrastructure changed over, most likely going with Ubiquiti. Ubiquiti offers a whole plethora of different networking options, all rack based. There's a cable modem component, there's a router component, there will be switch components, as well as some blanks and some pass-throughs and some patch panels and whatnot. And I don't necessarily have the room for that on the front right now. I don't want that network equipment on the back. I think the Ubiquiti equipment really wants to be on the front where it's visible. There's little screens where it's accessible and you can see kind of what's happening with it. So one of the things that I've always done with my rack is try to kind of spread things out, give things breathing space, and essentially just take advantage of all of the vertical space that's available in 37 units of height. But what I'm going to need to do now essentially is kind of compress the home theater side down to some extent, and I can make room up here. There is space, there is some blank space. I've got a triple blank and a couple of double blanks, so we're going to recover a couple of 1U spaces between some of the equipment. Still be nice and plenty of room in between everything, so for heat dissipation, airflow and stuff like that. But we will end up with a multi-U section up here on the right that will kind of turn it into the infrastructure, the network infrastructure segment of the Techthusiasm home theater rack, and then everything down below that will remain in service of the home theater room. So one of the things that I've taken advantage of on my rack is organizational elements or additions to the strong rack system. So whether you're using something like, I think, the Middle Atlantic, there's a variety of rack systems out there. Snap's strong racks exist the same way. There's a lot of additional componentry that you can buy. There's a lot of variety in sizes of different types of shelves, things that have ventilation, things that don't. You can get different levels of spacers. You can get different types of spacers. You can get kind of single wires to tie things to. You can get other types of cable tie downs. So I've largely only taken advantage of essentially the blank spacers in between my shelves, and I've always used essentially the same type of shelf for all of the equipment. But looking around at what Snap offered, I found a couple of other cool pieces. So one thing that I want to make sure to do in my rack space is always leave a little bit of height, a little bit of kind of open air above the components like the amplifiers, above a component like the madVR. These things run, they can get hot, and you want airflow to be able to come in and out. I wouldn't want to just kind of lock down the entire front of the rack, especially again when the rack is in a storage room, a utility room here. I want natural convection to be able to flow in from the front there. So I found a couple of these things. So not only are there the flat blank spacers available, but there's the ventilated spacers. So pretty neat. These are slatted. You can see this is a 2U spacer. They come in different heights as well. So I picked up a handful of these, and essentially as we squish stuff together and remove a little bit of kind of just the blank open spaces, I'm going to replace the open spaces with the ventilated spaces. Not only should it make the whole thing look a little bit nicer, but it will retain the ability to have, again, some of that natural airflow from the front of the rack above those warmer components. The other thing that I have going here is one of the elements of rack mounting the Kaleidescape. So they sell you this, or made available from Kaleidescape, is their direct rack kits for all of the Kaleidescape elements that are available. Of course, if you have the bigger Strato unit, it has its own rack ears, but if you're using the Strato C players or the compact Terra models, you can get these dual rack kits, which essentially fit 2 units. I have my Strato C and my Terra 12 terabyte in a single 1U of space. But the thing to take into consideration with the Kaleidescape is that it has external power supplies. So back behind there, well, where are you going to basically put the power bricks? I basically just have the power bricks kind of tied up and sitting on top of the Kaleidescape units themselves. That's why there's actually a 2U space right here. The 1U right above the Kaleidescape kind of makes space for the power bricks, and then there's a little bit of space above it. So as I was looking for options, looking for different types of accessories for the strong racks, I found this guy. So it's basically a 1U shelf, similar to the shelves that I already have in there, with one key difference. It actually has a blank faceplate. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of resting the power supplies of the Kaleidescape equipment right on it, we're going to do a 1U shelf right above the K. I can put the power bricks, and it gives me some basically storage. I can gather up cables and wires and stuff like that onto the shelf above the K players directly. Don't have to set the stuff directly on it, and I still don't have to see any of that from the front. So moral of the story essentially is, buy your rack and get from a company basically that provides an entire rack system, and it's pretty cool depending on your specific needs, your gear, and how things are going together, what you may be able to find. So I'm not gonna vlog out the kind of entire work here. My son's in here. We're gonna get cracking on this, ship some things down, compress it all up, and I'll be right back in just a split second, kind of showing the results of having some of these more unique rack pieces in the space, both for utility and I think enhancing the overall presentation. All right, making our way through the project. I already have the vents above the amps. Again, thanks to my son, he's helping me out down here today. Pretty cool looking. This looks a lot better. And I wanted to call attention to the idea again here. This is what I was doing with the Kaleidescape right now. So the 2 power bricks are just sitting on top of the Terra right there. I don't think that's super optimal. So instead, the shelf above, giving us a place to set them kind of cleanly, get the power bricks off of the equipment, I think will work out quite a bit nicer. So we're continuing to shift stuff down, make that space up above. And here we are, the new and improved Techthusiasm home theater rack. Got the space for the ubiquities, Kaleidescape, the power bricks separated now. Got those awesome slatted vents, 2U above the madVR, 2U above the AVM90, and 2U slatted vent above each of the NAD M28s. Pretty sweet. And we're done. So that didn't take very long, maybe about an hour altogether. My son and I were able to do it by ourselves, very carefully loosening up some of these heavier components and holding on precariously while he did some unscrewing and some rescrewing in. So this is looking fantastic. Again, this is the expression, I think, the presentation, the physical expression, the manifestation of our AV, our home theater hobbies, encompassed in the way this stuff looks, the way it's organized, the way it presents. And I think I definitely took a level up, a next level of presentation, cleanliness. Everything's so nicely locked in. There are some more things that I can do with this, though. I did actually find, I think they come out of the UK, but I did find specifically rack shelves that have the right kind of faceplate to fit specifically the various NAD amps. They were kind of expensive, though. I think a couple $100 a piece, give or take, just for shelves. I don't know, maybe someday, but there's definitely more important, more impactful things to spend some money on before buying those. But I'm really enamored with this. I think it looks fantastic. I'll be happy to show it off some more, of course, next time I have guests and I do some demos or I do a meetup. And we've got all the space necessary now to start the Ubiquiti migration. So we'll be looking at a couple of brushed pass-throughs, a couple of patch panels. We're looking at a 48-port switch, hopefully, a Dream Machine, and I think the cable modem, not making the move to fiber here anytime soon. So yeah, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. What other rack parts and bits and pieces and different things should I go looking for further enhance the Techthusiasm racks? How do you like your racks? What do you do? What did you add to your racks to clean them up, to make them nice and organized, and make them present the way that you want them to express your home theater hobby? And again, if you're looking for a rack system, I can help you out with that directly now. And I've been very happy. It's been nigh on 10 years, I think, that I've actually had this same exact rack, pair of racks, down here in the basement, servicing all of the home's infrastructure, audio video needs, and I don't feel any need to make any changes. Just keep upgrading, swapping, and augmenting as we go. So if you're looking for something like that, or some of this cool gear as well, Kaleidescape, let me know. I can help you out directly, or I can refer you to a bunch of my partners. If you'd like to help out the channel, that is probably the best way to do so. Otherwise, there's a bunch of other affiliates down in the description: Amazon, Target, Best Buy, Newegg, and more. Please click those. Have your spouse or your significant other click through those when they do the shopping for themselves or for the family as well. Much appreciated. Leave a super thanks, PayPal, Venmo tip. Become a channel member. Love to see more channel members in the community for sure. Otherwise, please do all that regular YouTube stuff as well. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video, leave that comment. Let's discuss. Let me know all about your sweet AV home theater rack setup. Thanks so much for watching, and come on back for more home theater discussion and fun.